East Africa is dousing in autocracy, and the expressway to the current state of affairs has been long and winding. The price of dissent has also proven costly. Bob Njagi and Nicholas Oyo make up the long casualties list of East Africans who are bearing the brunt of repression. It's a tell-all session on the bench with the two Kenyans who have been held in illegal captivity for 38 days. I am Ayub Abdikadir, and here are the highlights.
One officer at the back, another officer in the front. The one in the front would hit me with blows while I'm being asked, because they took our phones. And so they would go through the phones and ask us questions, who is so-and-so?
Chained, blindfolded and tortured. Activists Bob Njagi and Nicholas Oyo narrate ordeal at the hands of Museveni's security agents. 15 days in police custody. Foreign Affairs Ministry releases names of Kenyans still held in Tanzanian custody as members of opposition Chadema party seek refuge in Kenya. Kenyans on Riyadh streets. Shock as tens of Kenyan new mothers lie stranded in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. President William Ruto vows to recapture Ukambani votes as he begins a 4-day tour of Makueni, Machakos and Kitui counties. Njoki Shege is our sign language interpreter. We start the broadcast with revelations by Bob Njagi and Nicholas Oyo, two Kenyan activists who are held in Uganda's President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni's so-called fridge for 38 days before their release last week. Njagi and Oyo, who were tortured at Kasenyi military barracks, say they suspect that their abduction and detention was a result of fear by the Ugandan regime that they were on a mission to incite the Gen Zs in Kampala. For 23 days, they were held at a camp with more than 150 other political prisoners, where they were questioned about their mission in Uganda before they were transferred to a safe house where they remained for 14 days. Gatete Njoroge kicks us off.
I'm in the cell and he asked me, Bob,
Bob Njagi breaks down during a media briefing. The encounter with journalists evokes painful memories of the 38 days he was held illegally by Uganda's military. What started as a business trip to Uganda and an engagement with NUP presidential candidate Bobi Wine would later become the darkest experience for two activists after they were abducted in Kampala.
I was tortured on the second day during interrogation. I was removed from the cell, blindfolded, taken to a room, chained into a chair like this on one hand. One officer at the back, another officer in the front. The one in the front would hit me with blows while I'm being asked, because they took our phones. And so they would go through the phones and ask us questions, who is so-and-so? Who is funding this movement? What have you come here to Uganda to do?
I was tied to something like this, and I was whipped severally, and they could ask me questions about some of those groups that we were in, trying to tell us I think they're expecting some answers of some sort.
For 23 days, they were held at Kasenyi military barracks. They say there were more than 150 other political prisoners held at the facility without trial and knowledge of their family members. 6 Nigerians are part of those in military detention.
They have been detained, some of them up to a year. That is what is calling the fridge, if you want to know what the fridge is. So there are some people who are actually in the freezer, not in the fridge. And as a human rights issue, these people have no cases. Most of them, they've been kept there for political reasons.
In Kasenyi, it's a military camp. Let me tell you, you wake up at 3:30, not because you want to wake up from your uncomfortable sleep sometimes, but it is because you hear bullets and bombs and people shouting there. They are training there. That is a place that psychologically is a very big torture.
They suspect their arrest was informed by the regime fears that they were in Uganda to incite the youth against the government ahead of the January 2026 general elections.
They were trying to create a narrative that we were going to Uganda to bring the Gen Z in Uganda. I think that is basically insulting the intelligence of Ugandans. I mean the intellect of Ugandans, surely. They can do the work. We don't have to go and teach them how to do these things.
When we traveled to Uganda and we were in the rally, according to the authorities, they thought this as an act of aggression, whereas in our thinking, participating in a political rally is not a crime in Uganda.
The activists who describe Uganda as a country where security agencies operate with impunity want the international community to intervene and save the political prisoners.
We have not seen any protest letter from Kenya, and those are some of the things we are saying, are telling us there was a collusion in this. In fact, for us, probably the Ugandans, their fridge lasted for maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks. After that, that fridge was not theirs.
The two say they will move to the East African Court of Justice to seek justice. Despite being subjected to psychological torture and inhumane treatment, Bob Njagi and Nicholas Oyo say the experience has not broken their spirit and resolve to champion for better governance in East Africa region. Gatete Njoroge, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Bob and Nick are here with me on the bench this evening, and thanks for your time, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Much appreciated.
Thank you.
First, Bob, were you detained by the Special Security Forces under the command of General Muhoozi Kainerugaba?
That's correct. This is a militia ragtag. It's a militia kind of group that is acting as if it's acting in the best interest of the nation, but it's actually acting in the interest of protecting the elite. They made it very clear that that is a training camp specifically for the Presidential Guard, okay, under General Muhoozi, and they are actually above none. The slogan is above, next to none. That is their slogan, which means that they don't listen to the judiciary. They don't listen. They are not subject to the law. They are not subject to the executive. They are next to none. So they can carry out any kind of operations without being held accountable by any government system.
Okay.
That is why they would abduct foreign nationals, including Nigerians. There is one person who had a South African passport. We Kenyans, the two of us, and a number of Ugandans, civilian Ugandans. One of them happens to be the brother of the Internal Security Minister for Uganda. His brother was abducted. The minister himself is looking for him. And he's right there at a place called Ronyo. That's where we were being held.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, Nick.
Yeah. Yeah, this issue is an issue that I think it's an East African coalition. Because you see what happens, you look at the way the processes are done. It's the same issue that we found when Bob was taken the first time, in the first abduction here in Kenya, that it takes time before you start hearing denials. And then eventually, suddenly something happens and you realize it was theirs. You remember in his case, they appeared on the same day that the IG was going to court. It is also the same thing that happened in this case. Deny, and then suddenly, So it shows you it's the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bob, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni admitted that he held you guys in a fridge. Describe your condition. Was that the reality?
It's actually a light statement of fact, because it's actually a freezer, not a fridge. There's people who stayed there without seeing their families for more than 4 or 5 months, up to 1 year. They've not been taken to court. Their families don't know where they are. They can't communicate to their families, so they're actually freezing your life for as long as they wish to. That's what he refers to as a fridge, a place where they excommunicate you from the rest of the society for a period of time as long as they desire. in that there are no human rights organizations that are functioning in that country. They have clamped down on the civil society, and now I think it's upon us as a people now to hold these governments to account. Yes.
Okay, so we have a lot to talk about, gentlemen. The chronology, how you left here, why you left here, why you attended the manifesto launch, and of course the chronology of the experiences that you have experienced in Uganda, and the clarion call on what your views are generally on the state of governance in East Africa. So we'll be discussing that and much more. Elsewhere, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has released the names of Kenyans who are still held in captivity in Tanzania. 3 among them, 2 who have been killed in the aftermath of the violence following the elections which led to the election of President Samia Suluhu Hassan for a second term. Brenda Wanga details as concerns are expressed over the uncertainty and the welfare of Kenyans and others who are still holed up in the aftermath of the polls in Tanzania, which has also seen opposition members locked up after the disqualification from the political contest.
The government admits that its citizens were caught up in the fracas that erupted in parts of Tanzania during and after the elections. 8 of the country's citizens were arrested and released without charge. However, Samuel Kagila, a tour operator, Stephen Dungu, a businessman, and George Madila Odhiambo are still in police custody in Arusha and Dar es Salaam, respectively. 2 other Kenyans, John Ogutu, a teacher, and Albert Kamala, a Kenyan of dual citizenship with Tanzania, were killed in the country.
A Kenyan by the name John Ogutu was shot dead on 29th October at around 7 p.m. in Goba Center, Ubungo district in Dar es Salaam. He was a teacher at Sky Schools High, Rabson. His body has not been traced to date.
The government's admission comes as the treason trial of Chadema's leader Tundu Lissu came up for hearing in Tanzania on Wednesday. The court was supposed to hear from a state witness from the security sector on condition of anonymity, but the opposition leader objected to that.
Lazima ile haki ya kusikilizwa kwa ukamilifu au usawa mbele ya sheria izingatiwe na kwamba haki ionekane inatendeka. Hasa kama shahidi anafichwa hata jaji amuoni na amjui ni nani, naweza kupata mashahidi wa kubambikiza au mwingine wa mchongo ambao wanaweza kuingiza katika kivuli kile. Kwa hiyo upande pekee ambao unamfahamu ndio ilikuwa ni hoja ya mwenyekiti. Upande pekee katika kesi ambao unamfahamu shahidi huyo ni upande wa mashtaka.
The case was adjourned to a later date. This as the opposition party Chadema's leadership maintained that the government of the day will be held accountable for the atrocities committed against those deemed to be opposed to it.
Kwa hiyo hili jambo la watu wetu waliouawa, Watanzania waliouawa, hata nani ajidanganye, halitafichwa chini ya uvungu, haitakubalika. Hata mawe yatazungumza. Sisi historia yetu ni watu ambao tumepinga dhuluma dhidi ya binadamu.
Their sentiments come as the United Nations Human Rights Office raised concerns about Samia Suluhu's government's crackdown on perceived dissidents that included the mass killings, abductions, and disappearances.
And that security forces have been seen removing bodies from streets and hospitals and taking them to undisclosed locations in an apparent attempt to conceal evidence. We strongly urge the Tanzanian authorities to provide information about the fate and whereabouts of all those missing and to hand over the bodies of those killed to their loved ones so that they can be given dignified burials.
Those atrocities are now becoming even clearer with first-hand narration from those fleeing persecution in Tanzania. A couple of Chadema officials seeking safety in Kenya say the situation in their country is getting worse by the day.
Ilifika hatua walikuwa hawaui watu tu ambao wameandamana. Kulikuwa na polisi na watu ambao wamevaa mavazi ya kawaida, wanaenda kwenye nyumba za watu, wanagonga mlango, mnatoka nje, ukikutwa ni kijana unauawa. So ni zaidi ya maandamano.
Taifa letu linapita katika bonde la uvuli wa mauti. Utawala wa Rais Samia tangu alivyoingia madarakani umekuwa wa kinyama sana. Mamia ya vijana wa Tanzania wametekwa na wengine wameuawa kinyama sana.
At the same time, Kenya, alongside other leaders from the region, have been faulted for turning a blind eye to events unfolding in Tanzania.
And then you see what is going on in Kenya and what's going on in Tanzania. What else can you say? we are actually in pariah states. We are in states that are causing issues. There is no president in East Africa who has condemned Samira. Museveni has not condemned. It's a congratulatory message.
Brenda Wanga, Citizen TV.
Still on the welfare of Kenyans, and hundreds of new mothers are stranded in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The women who are now forced to live in the streets of Jeddah and Riyadh in deplorable and dire conditions. According to Foreign Affairs CS Musalia Mudavadi, the kingdom's strict laws have led to many of these children born out of wedlock being denied registration. Here is Melita Oletenges with that report.
Kenya's Ministry of Foreign Affairs is facing mounting questions over the plight of Kenyans living abroad. The latest being reports that hundreds of Kenyan mothers and their children are struggling in parts of Riyadh and Jeddah in Saudi Arabia, after being denied registration for children born out of wedlock, which is illegal in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
Given the huge population of Kenyans working in the country, the problem of mothers with undocumented children is prevalent, and the government is pursuing bilateral interventions. And this has been a subject of several parliamentary questions, by the way, from members of parliament whose constituents have been affected in one way or the other.
Fearing legal repercussions, many of the mothers are forced to deliver their babies at home. Without official certification, these children are left stateless, trapped in the streets of Saudi Arabian towns, unable to navigate legal systems or return home. Repatriation efforts, while ongoing, remain slow and largely insignificant.
Since its inception, the deliberate efforts have resulted in the safe repatriation of 59 mothers and 73 children back to Kenya.
Mudavadi further revealed that human trafficking remains a growing concern, with some Kenyans falling victim to fraudulent recruitment agents. He noted that over 400 Kenyans have reportedly been duped and left stranded without jobs abroad.
The saddest thing is that it is spiraling out of control as more victims are trafficked from Africa to as far as South America and Europe.
The ministry has also downplayed remarks made by Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni regarding Kenyans Bob Njagi and Nicholas Oyo, who are allegedly kept in a fridge, saying the statement should not be taken literally.
President Museveni was speaking metaphorically, rather than to suggest that there was anything that was done in the manner in which he described it.
Critics of Kenya's foreign policy say it has moved from being good, bad, and now ugly, with the country's Ministry of Foreign Affairs seen to be sitting on the fence despite killings and abduction of Kenyans in neighboring countries. The ministry says Kenya is not staring at the edge of a diplomatic precipice, asking Kenyans to give diplomacy a chance. Melita Oletenge, Citizen TV at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Nairobi.
And President William Ruto has called on the Ukambani region to rally behind him and support his re-election bid in 2027, saying the region has been misled into opposition politics for far too long. Speaking in the county of Makueni, where he kicked off his 4-day tour of the region, the head of state fired back at his critics, telling them to prepare for a defeat in the next general election, adding that the one-term crusade is a waste of time. Here's our political affairs reporter, Emmanuel To.
He kicked off his tour of Ukambani region in Makueni County Wednesday on a charm offensive of the region, perceived to be Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka's bedrock. President William Ruto beginning by calling on the region to back his 2027 re-election bid, saying the time for the residents to form the next government with him had come.
Mimi nimeamua kwa vyovyote, mbele na nyuma, kulia na kushoto, juu na chini, hii Ukambani haiwezi kukaa upinzani tena. Mimi niliwacha nafasi watu wakakuja wakazungusha Ukambani wakapeleka upinzani. Lakini sasa nimefika, mwambieni Ruto amefika, amesema Ukambani inatoka upinzani inaenda kwa serikali.
President Ruto defending the rise of taxation in his regime, including the affordable housing tax, saying his predecessors failed to capitalize on the country's potential.
Si tumelipa ushuru miaka hii yote tangu independence, lakini nyumba ilijengwa haikujengwa. So sio ushuru, sio ushuru, shida ni akili, mtu mwenye ako na akili ya kupanga maneno.
The president then turned his guns on opposition leaders, including Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka, telling them to get their act together or prepare for a thrashing in 2027.
Mpango hana, sera hana, agenda hana, akili hana. Atabadilisha Ukambani namna gani? Mkiendelea ati one term, Kasongo, sijui Masgo, mutachelewa. Tafuteni sera kuja uzia hao wananchi.
Watatuambia maji gani walileta, barabara gani walileta, soko gani walijenga, siku hiyo ikifika. Na tunasema mwachane na ukabila.
Tunaambiwa ati tukae ngumu, ati itakuwa nzuri hapo mbele. Sisi tunasema tutaki mambo kukaa ngumu. Tumechoka na siasa ya umaskini, tunataka siasa ya maendeleo.
Makofi mazuri, makofi.
President Ruto launched several projects, including the Mali Ukia Road, inspected the Wote Affordable Housing Project, and issued title deeds to residents of Kilome constituency.
Na hii barabara hapa inataka iwekwe barabara ya chini na juu, ili wale wanaenda na manga waendelee kuendelea na manga na wale wanapita wapite.
Mheshimiwa William Ruto, rais wa Kenya, amepata rais wa Kenya na chini ya miaka tatu ya uongozi wake ametuwekea barabara ya kutoka Imani kwenda Ukia.
Emmanuel To, Citizen TV.
Democracy for Citizens Party leader Rigathi Gachagua now says there are plans to interfere with the outcome of the Mbeere North by-election. The former deputy president is warning the Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja and the poll body's chairperson Erastus Ethekon that they will be held accountable if they fail to address the concerns raised by the opposition. In Malava, UDA candidate David Ndakwa received endorsement from a section of Muslim community leaders, even as the campaigns now enter the home stretch. Here is Seth Olale.
With campaigns for the November 27th by-election entering home stretch, DCP party leader Rigathi Gachagua has raised concern over what he terms as planned by-election violence in Mbeere North constituency. In a letter addressed to Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja and copied to IEBC Chairman Erastus Ethekon, the former deputy president alleges that certain individuals are issuing threats of violence on the people of Mbeere North and myself when I go to campaign for the candidate of my choice from 16th November 2025, and that, I quote, despite the evidence and information in your custody, the above persons have not been arraigned. We demand that the said persons be arrested and arraigned. We further demand that the people of Mbeere North be allowed to exercise their democratic right to vote a candidate of their choice. No one shall be allowed to force a candidate to the people. The DCP leader reiterating that he will campaign for his preferred candidate on Sunday, 16th November 2025, and that there is credible information showing government's alleged plans to disrupt the electoral procedure. The opposition, while campaigning for DP candidate Newton Kariuki, warned Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja and IEBC Chairman Erastus Ethekon that they will be personally held accountable if they fail to address the security and electoral concerns raised by the opposition.
Niwaonye kwamba mwezi kunyamaza wakati watu wametoa tisho kwamba Mheshimiwa Rigathi Gachagua atapokuja Mbeere North mtamfurusha vile mmezoea kumfurusha kila pahali akitembea.
In Kakamega County, campaigns for the Malava by-election intensified, with UDA candidate David Ndakwa extending his grassroots rallies to Manda, Mabusi and Muigai.
Mtampigia Ndakwa kwa sababu asali huwezi kutoa upinzani.
Uweze kufunza mtoto umwambie ukishafaulu uende utafute kazi upinzani. Iko kazi?
Lakini mimi nawahakikishia mahali Mheshimiwa Malulu Injendi aliwachia kwa miradi, mimi nitachapa kazi kwa mfululizo bila kupakua mahali popote na nitamaliza hiyo miradi.
Seth Olale, Citizen TV.
Political promises over there. Up to you, the Kenyan people, to accord that mandate. Detectives have exhumed a human body suspected to be of 67-year-old Meshak Mainye Miyaki, who has been missing for 2 weeks since he was last seen in Manga, the county of Nyamira. The family says Mainye was reported missing on the 27th of October and his whereabouts remained unknown until they stumbled on a grave within the compound. Their kin had been murdered and buried by unknown people.
Shock and grief hangs over the home of Meshak Mainye Miyaki in Manga, Nyamira County, following the bizarre discovery of a suspicious grave within the compound. Meshak was reported missing on the 27th of October while within this place. He didn't report to work and efforts to trace him proved futile.
Ndio shemeji huyu mkubwa alitupigia simu akasema Mainye alienda nyumbani, atarudi kazi, hayuko nyumbani, amepotea.
His family reported the matter to area police and mounted a search for their missing kin. It was not until Wednesday when his family stumbled on a fresh grave within his compound. Investigators were called in and to their shock, unknown people had murdered Meshak and buried his body here without notice.
Kukuarusa hivi kidogo, mkono ikatokea. Sio kirefu kubwa ati walimweka tu shimo ya futi 1.5 hivi ama 2. So tukaona mkono umetokea na harufu ikatoka hapo. Tukaona tumbo, tukaona miguu kiasi, sasa tukasema yes, huyu anaonekana kama mjamaa ndio, sababu tulikuwa tunatafuta mwananchi. Na mwananchi hii mwili ni ya binadamu. Si labda ndio huyu.
Detectives embarked on exhuming the human remains as investigation into the incident carry on.
Aliyetenda tendo hili la kumuua ndugu Mainye na kumzika ni jambo ambalo ni mbaya sana sisi kama Wakristo, na tena ni mbaya sana katika serikali yetu ya Kenya.
Upon completion of the exhumation exercise, the decomposing human remains were taken to a local facility, awaiting further DNA test and an autopsy. No arrests have been made with regard to the incident, even as family accused police of laxity in probing the matter, which began as a missing person case and morphed into homicide investigation. Franklin Wala, Citizen TV.
And sad news, this regards the Isiolo Member of Parliament, Mohammed Tupi, is dead. Tupi, who is a first-term lawmaker of the National Assembly, died at the Nairobi hospital after a long illness. While condoling with the family, the Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Wetangula, had described the death of the Member of Parliament as a great loss to the country. May his soul rest in eternal peace. We are still with Bob Njagi and Nicholas Oyo. Tonight is a tell-all session on the bench of the experiences they had in Uganda, which will generally also dovetail with the state of human rights and democracy in the region. Is Jumuiya taking a totalitarian turn? And what's the prescription as Uganda heads to the elections in 2026 and Kenya 2027? We'll hear it from them in details on the bench this evening. And here is what's coming up. Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. The bench is this evening graced by Bob Njagi and Nick Oyo, who are held in illegal captivity for 38 days in Uganda and as admitted by President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. Gentlemen, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Let's have the chronology of where it all began. Nick, and this is to you. Tell us about your journey to Uganda. How did you end up in Kampala?
We have business interests, we have family interests, we have those kinds of relationships and that kind of stuff. So we had a plan to go to Uganda to go and see some of these issues. And so when we got into Uganda, legally, by the way. We had our passport stamped, 6 months visa. We got in very well, and we started our business. But then we realized that our colleague, Bobby Wine, is having a launch of their manifesto. So we felt that that is something that we should give solidarity to. So we were there to give solidarity, because that is what we usually do. Even if, say, for instance, I'm in court, you may not have resources to support me in anything, but as long as I can see you, it makes me feel that at least people are helping out. So that is what we wanted to do with this. And for us, it was not, we didn't expect anything of this nature. In fact, we were thinking that it is going to be a 4 or 5 days trip, and we are back. Yeah.
And to be specific then, Bob, what is the specific business interest which took you to Kampala before joining Bobby Wine, Chagulanyi, on the campaigns?
Okay, first I have some Canadian friends of mine who are bound to come to Kenya next month in January. And they had asked me to see if I can take them to see the gorillas in Uganda. So I thought if I go there in advance, I would be able to look at the good places to take them if they do come in January. I don't think they're considering to travel to Uganda anymore now, after seeing what happened to us. I have a friend there also by the name Mike Mukula. He's a former Minister of Health. During COVID-19, I supplied the COVID masks to him for goods worth over 1 million Kenya shillings. I was there to actually also see if I can meet up with Mike, and there are phone records to show that I had even called him in advance to seek an appointment with him. Also, but politically, we have interactions with the National Unity Party here in Kenya for many years since 2018. You remember the Free Bobby Wine protest in Nairobi? That was the Free Kenya movement that I was organizing, because we were still fighting for human rights and advance of good governance. At the time, the government of dictator Museveni had put him behind bars for exercising his freedom of speech. And we joined him in solidarity to call for his release until months later, I think a month later, they released him. Thereafter, he has visited Kenya twice. On both occasions, we have hosted him. During the Human Rights Conference back in 2020, where with many Ugandan opposition leaders, including Mugisha Muntu, Kiza Besije, and we had a meeting at the Ufungamano Hall. So we have been having relationships with these people for a long time, and we are sharing ideologies across the region. For instance, in our movement, we rally behind the People Power movement, which our slogan is People Power, Higher Power. In Uganda, it's People Power, Our Power, because we both believe that all sovereign power is vested in the people, and we should have governments that are advancing policies that are pro-people. To that extent, we have, when we realized that they're having a manifesto launch, we thought it's an opportunity to show solidarity. And we actually traveled to Uganda, and when we got to Jinja Town, we spent the night there. The following morning, we prepared to go for the rally. We attended the rally, which was well attended, and left the rally in the evening. The following morning, we happened to be in a place called Matuga. Our vehicle had a problem, and we stopped at the Starbucks petrol station, which is actually owned by our president here. And it was at that petrol station when we got abducted by security officers who seemed at the time not to be just ordinary security people, because they were very heavily armed. It's then that we realized we are under the military. Yes.
Okay. And before I come to Nicholas on the abduction, so it took you a day to finish up on your businesses?
We got there, and by the second day, we were abducted. But we had planned to stay there for at least a week. Our plan of intention was to stay at least for a week, see and tour Uganda, and then come back as East African citizens. We had gotten the necessary paperwork to be in Uganda, because we crossed at the Busia border, and we got our visas for 6 months, I think. So we had been there very much legally.
Okay. Nick, give us the details of the moment the heavily armed men, as Bob stated, when that moment actually happened, and then the chronology of what happened thereafter.
We were trying to organize our vehicle because we had some tie-up issues. In fact, it started as we went to Kampala. We had to take a bit of some time because we had to organize the tires. Now, when we got to Mutuga, we found a Starbucks, and that is where our vehicle completely could not move further. So we decided to park it there and spend the night a bit, and then in the morning we got up to now deal with the tires. In fact, there were comrades of ours who were bringing those tires. So what happened is, when these people came, they first came with an adverse team, I think of 2 people. So they were talking to him. So when I saw them, I knew it was the people of the tire, and I was the one who had those contacts.
Yeah.
So I joined him, and the moment I joined him, we just had police, and suddenly there was what they call the drone appeared. And the people who dropped from that vehicle, it was a sight that I've never seen in front of me. People fully armed to the teeth, and I think about 8, 7, or 6 people, very armed. And so they came and surrounded us and pushed us into the vehicles. For me now, it was an issue of, I think this must be something like that, of that nature. So it was like, can I throw my phone out of the vehicle? Because for me, it was like, we need something that somebody can use to maybe call people and tell people. So what happened is, I tried to throw it out, but I realized that I couldn't. But that then excited them into, I think it made them feel like I'm hiding another phone. So they started to attack me in the vehicle. But after some time, they realized I was telling them the truth, I don't have another phone. So that is how we started moving, quietly, by the way, all the way. Nobody speaks. They speak among themselves, sometimes in signs, that kind of stuff. Sometimes a bit of Kiswahili, but a lot of Luganda. So we couldn't make up what they're really saying. But at that moment, we had another person we were 3 of us in that petrol station. So one of the other person entered the vehicle with us. They had grabbed the 3 of us. Then from I think it's a miracle of some sort, Bob said that we have not locked the car. So they said, who has the key? Who has the key? And it was him who had the key. So he just dropped like that, and I saw them look at those, I think they had a phone there. Yeah. They looked at it, and they looked at me like this straight. Then they looked again and looked at Bob straight like this, and that guy just said, let's go.
So
and that is how that person was left, Kofi. Yeah.
So was the third person part of you, or he was an innocent bystander?
He was part of us. We were with him in that trip, and that's how we managed to live with 2 people and leaving 1 person. I think that helped us too. Yeah, Kenyan.
Or Ugandan?
Kenyan. Yeah. We even had another Ugandan.
Would you mind sharing his name?
It's called Kofi Atandi. Kofi Atandi. That's his name, yeah. So Kofi was left, and I think that probably was something that...
Okay.
Yeah.
Bob, then did you not foresee danger when you attended the manifesto launch of Bobi Wine Chagulanyi, given the rough times he had with the authorities in Uganda and what he went through with his family as well?
I did not think it would be such a bad thing because I did not speak at the rally. Neither was I wearing the clothes or regalia for the opposition. I was there to participate by just listening to what the people of Uganda want for their livelihoods. I have seen Martha Karua going to Uganda to fight for Dr. Kiza Besigye in court. That is activism. That is solidarity. How come she's not abducted? I have seen our President Ruto going to campaign for the President Museveni. Why isn't it questioned whether he's supporting a person from the other team? Why is it a problem that why are we a threat to them as such? It shows that the regime of President Museveni is very afraid of the awakening of young people in Uganda, because we represent a majority of the young people in Kenya in terms of the issues we stand for. If you look at the finance bill, my abduction was as a result of the finance bill in 2024, which we joined hands as Kenyans to say no to an oppressive bill, which up to today, the parliamentarians are still following the same suit.
Yeah.
And I think this is a threat even from Museveni, because he thinks that we might introduce the same kind of patriotism towards defending the constitution in Uganda as it is in Kenya. I think that was why they are really afraid of us being able to have this kind of influence on the people. But I believe that even as we speak, 80% of Ugandans are the youth, and time for change is coming. It's actually here.
Okay. So next we'll now talk about where you were taken. And you have also named General Muhoozi Kainerugaba. So we'll talk more about that and where you were held, the state of your affairs at the time, who you were held with, and how you were released, who you were in touch with, and the interventions made by the Kenyan High Commission in Uganda. We move on, and Farmers' Choice Kenya has unveiled Farmers' Choice 2.0 and a new cookout series in Nairobi, an initiative aimed at celebrating local production and quality. CEO Felicitas Gitau Mutugu said the company is committed to supporting farmers through transport, genetics and subsidized feeds, ensuring quality from the farm to the table. The head of marketing, Kanan Ndegwa, noted that this marks the next phase of their Timeless Joy campaign, focusing on nutrition and festive enjoyment, while the Cookout series will air on YouTube and social media starting this weekend. Farmers' Choice also added that they will reward consumers throughout December with gift hampers and shopping trolleys.
It does not only work with the pork farmers, we work with the beef farmers, we work with the poultry farmers, and we also work with the pastoralists who supply to us, and even lamb and goat. For these farmers, we also avail to them feeds at subsidized price, so that we make sure that they can be able to rear their animals the most affordable way possible. And beyond that, because of the cost of transport, we offer collection of the animals from the different places across the country. And this is a collaboration that we intend to continue to keep. What this gives us is a guarantee of the quality not only of the product, but of the meat that makes the product, that is from the farm to the table.
The Jipange na View Sasa campaign continues to excite funds across the country, with over 3 million already awarded to various winners. This week, Susan Gitau from Dagoretti in Nairobi County emerged as the 5th weekly winner, taking with her 500,000 Kenya shillings. Subscribers to View Sasa, Kenya's leading video-on-demand platform, have a chance to watch exciting local content and stand a chance to win up to 2 million Kenya shillings in the grand prize.
Umekuwa ukiwatch content kwa platform ya View Sasa kwa muda gani sasa?
Kwa mwaka mmoja.
1 year?
Yes.
Ala, na ukabahatika sasa?
Nikabahatika ndio mimi huyu.
So yeah. 1 year of una watchingi nini? What do you watch on the platform?
Sana sana napanda Mwalimu Stano.
Mwalimu Stano.
Mwalimu Stano kanyangia hapo tu uko unafurahisha wa mama. Yeah, I'm so happy. Yeah.
Asante sana for being a loyal viewer.
Asante.
Thanks a lot, Susan.
We're still with Bob and Nick, who have been freed from captivity in Uganda. The chronology of this story continues on the bench after the break, where they were taken, where they were held, how they knew it was General Muhoozi Kainerugaba behind all this, and the state of their captivity during the 38 days. All here on the bench when we get back, of course, not forgetting business and sports news. Stay with us. Time for business news on the broadcast. SBM Bank Kenya has bounced back to profitability, posting a 283 million shillings profit after tax for the 9 months ended September. The turnaround marks a major recovery from the 1.3 billion Kenya shillings loss recorded over the same period last year. Here's Jasmine Wamboi with that report.
Under the leadership of CEO Batesh Shah, who took the helm in May last year, SBM Bank has swung back to profitability, driven by higher interest income, strong deposit growth, and tighter cost controls. The bank closed the third quarter with a net profit of 283 million, a sharp turnaround from a 1.4 billion loss last year. Interest income rose to 2.7 billion shillings, up from 1.4 billion shillings last year. Non-interest income also inched upwards from 1.1 billion to 1.5 billion shillings. Total assets rose to 104 billion, up from 97.5 billion last year, while customer deposits grew by 20% to 75.2 billion shillings. Operating income increased by 65% to 4.3 billion shillings, as operating expenses dropped 3.5%, signaling improved efficiency. The bank's capital position remains strong with a core capital of 7.7 billion, more than double the central bank's new minimum, and a liquidity ratio of 42.9%, well above regulatory requirements. SBM Bank Kenya is a subsidiary of SBM Group Holdings, a Mauritius-based financial services group with operations in Kenya, Mauritius, India, and Madagascar. The group first entered Kenya through the acquisition of Fidelity Commercial Bank, which it later renamed to SBM Bank Kenya. Jasmine Wamboi, Citizen TV.
Kenyans banking with I&M Bank, especially business, corporate and institutional clients, can now trade foreign currency in real time. This follows the launch of FX Direct, a new digital platform that allows customers in the three categories to track currency behavior in real time before making decisions on key transactions. Further, the bank notes that the platform will eliminate the traditional need for physical dealer interaction, offering users the ability to buy and sell foreign exchange, manage limit orders and monitor live market rates from anywhere, in turn offering customers convenience.
Trading about a new product that we are launching. So Kelvin Gitao, please come forward. And
the rates are individualized, right? The rates that are offered to the clients here are Mary's individual rates. Each customer will have a rate that is specific to them, because it also speaks to the currency pairs that they trade. It speaks to the volumes that they deal with. It speaks to the length of the relationship that we have had.
When you're dealing with international payments for a future date, importers or exporters for that matter, they may have the option to pay now and wait for the goods to come. Or they may agree with the supplier of services that, hey, once you ship, then I will pay. That means in the future. But unfortunately, in the foreign exchange market, nobody knows where the rate of exchange will be in the future.
Now to this breakthrough, and very interesting one as such. Kenyan scientists have made a major breakthrough in the fight against bird damage on sorghum farms. The Kenya Agricultural and Livestock Research Organization, KALRO, has unveiled 5 new sorghum varieties that either escape or repel birds, promising to end years of frustration for smallholder farmers who have suffered massive post-harvest losses. Our reporter Dennis Otieno gives us the details on this week's edition of Smart Farm.
For decades, birds have been the biggest nightmare for sorghum farmers across Kenya, wiping out entire fields before harvest.
One of the issues which made us to do research for these bird escaping varieties is that our farmers have been growing sorghum and getting losses up to around 80%. So we had to come up with a solution for that.
That solution from the team of researchers from KALRO has seen them develop 5 new sorghum varieties, specially bred to escape or repel birds. The new varieties include Jasiri, Smart Sorghum and Dume, all white varieties, alongside a red and brown line still under final evaluation. Each one is designed to make sorghum less attractive to birds, especially during the critical milk stage when attacks are most severe.
So for the white varieties, we have Jasiri, which has a bird escaping trade of around 2.5%. Then we have Smart Sorghum, which has a bird damage of around 0.6%. And we have Dome, which has a bird percentage of around 7%.
According to Calro, the secret lies in tannins, naturally occurring compounds that give the plants a bitter taste. When the tannin levels are high, birds avoid feeding on the grains.
And the mechanism we have used now to come up with this solution is that when the sorghum is bitter or when the tannins are high, the birds don't feed on the sorghum. So our sorghums have high tannins when they are at milk stage. And that is the critical stage when the birds damage the sorghum. So when they come and test the sorghum during that stage, the tannins are too high, so they will not feed on it. Then, once the sorghum starts maturing, the levels of tannins goes down up to when you are going to harvest your sorghum.
The varieties also feature unique physical traits that make feeding difficult for birds.
These black brooms makes the sorghum not appealing to birds. Birds normally require something which is appealing. And because of these black brooms, the birds are not pleased by this kind of brooms. So that is also another trend. And when you look at the panicles also, the panicles are facing down. So the birds have also a challenge of feeding the sorghum.
Beyond bird resistance, the new sorghums remain high-yielding, drought-tolerant, and ideal for semi-arid regions. A big win for small-scale farmers looking to cut losses and boost food security. With these new innovations, Calro hopes to restore confidence among sorghum farmers who have long battled bird attacks, turning a once risky crop into a reliable source of income and resilience in dryland communities. Dennis Otieno, Smart Farm.
Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. Sports news. Kenya's representatives at the WBLA qualifiers, Kenya Ports Authority, have moved level on 4 points with APR of Rwanda and Foxes Divas of Tanzania after thrashing Stormers 94-41 in the late game last night. KPA were ruthless from the first quarter and led from the first whistle to the end of the match. The Dockers led 15-1 in the opening minutes on their way to 21-8 lead at the end of the first quarter. They went into overdrive in the second quarter, hammering the Stormers 29-12 to take a huge 50-20 advantage into the halftime break. Coach Anthony Ojuku made changes in the third quarter, but the momentum was the same as KPA again took the quarter 23-11 with a 21-10 win in the fourth quarter. The Dockers easily won the match 94-41. Alima Dombia led scorers chart with 17 points, with Aminata Ali and Ifunaya Okoro adding 16 points each. Zaina Lokwameri was the best scorer for the Stormers with 11 points. 9 teams are taking part in the qualifiers being staged at the Nyayo National Stadium Gymnasium.
As they provide.
And the national football team, the Harambee Stars, have left for Turkey this morning ahead of 2 friendly matches against Equatorial Guinea and Senegal, both matches to be played in Antalya. Turkey was chosen as a venue for the matches due to proximity with many European cities where a majority of the professional players ply their trade. The Stars will have 2 more days of preparation ahead of the first match against Equatorial Guinea. The technical bench has drafted a lot of young players, including Aldrin Kibet, Baron Ochieng, Brighton Anyona and Lawrence Okoth, all 20 and below. Half the squad is made up by Kenya Premier League players, with Gor Mahia contributing 8. The Kenya Volleyball Federation, KVF, has won the bid to host the CFVB Zone 5 Club Championship for both men and women, beating the bids from Uganda and Ethiopia, who all expressed interest last month. The Zonal Club Championship will be held from the 8th to 16th of February 2026 in Nairobi. The 9 days competition will feature top 4 teams from 12 member federations of Zones 5. Burundi, Eritrea, Djibouti, Sudan, South Sudan, Ethiopia, Uganda, Kenya, Rwanda, Tanzania, Somalia and Egypt are the members of the expected to send teams to Nairobi. The APR team, men and women teams, were the winners of the 2025 edition that was